Y'all, today's show is so good.
But number one, I've never seen an intro like that.
It is my hope and desire that not only will episode 30 still be fun, but episode 300 will be even more fun. You were made for something great, so go and be awesome.
Ten seconds remaining.
Hello, and welcome to the show. My name is Renee Hastings, and I'm your host of Renee Speaks. Y'all, today's show is absolutely just the greatest celebration I can ever think of. Today, we are celebrating 3 years of Renee Speaks, and we have special gifts just for you. I can't wait to introduce you. As we celebrate our anniversary celebration, I want to give a special welcome to this very special episode. I'm so proud you're here, and whether you're watching live, catching the replay, or tuning in from wherever you are in the world, today is not just another show. Today is a celebration because 3 years ago, something simple but powerful happened. I pressed go and I said yes to a voice that's been nudging me. Yes to conversations that mattered. Yes to creating space for wisdom, honesty, growth, and purpose. And here we are, 3 years later, still speaking, still growing, still becoming. So today we're celebrating 3 years of Renee Speaks, and the theme of this anniversary special is the gifts that continue to shape our story. Because when I took back over these 3 years through seasons of change, challenge, clarity, and courage, 3 gifts stood out above the rest: inspiration, growth, and purpose. These aren't just ideas. They are gifts. Gifts that come through people, through conversations, through moments that stay with us long after the screen goes dark. Today, you're going to hear from voices who embody those gifts in real, lived ways. People who inspire others simply by showing up fully, who've grown through hard seasons and didn't quit, and who lived a life lined with something bigger than themselves. But before we go any further, I want to say thank you. Thank you to every guest who has said yes to this platform over the last 3 years. Thank you to everyone who has watched, shared, commented, or sent a message saying that conversation spoke to me. And thank you to you for being a part of this community. This show exists because of connection, because of shared values, because of a belief that conversations can shape lives. Today's celebration is proudly brought to you by Executive Help Now, where we help founders and executives create clarity, capacity, and systems that support the lives and businesses they're building. And it's powered by live stream editors, our behind-the-scenes magic makers who ensure these conversations reach you with excellence. Now, here's how today's show will flow. We'll move through 3 segments, each centered on one of the gifts that has shaped the journey: the gift of inspiration, the gift of growth, and the gift of purpose. Each guest will share one intentional reflection and one anchor thought, because today isn't about rushing. It's about meaning. So settle in, lean in, and allow yourself to receive what's meant for you today. We're going to start where every journey begins, with inspiration. So let's get into it. As we get ready to introduce our amazing guests, we are starting with Mo Brown Suga. She is the founder and CEO and producer of Mo Brown Suga's Entertainment. We also want to introduce you to Lisa Perez, who is the founder and president of HBL Resources Inc. and Jerome Hutchinson, who is the founder and chief servant officer of ICABA, as well as Khalilah Lyons, who is a leadership coach and culture strategist. Y'all, put your hands together for all of our amazing guests.
Lineup.
For being here and for being part of this journey. Y'all, let's begin with Mo. Mo, you are so inspirational. There are so many things that you do, and you inspire people across so many spaces, stage, screen, and community. What keeps you inspired to keep showing up fully, and how do you inspire others?
Ooh, that's, sometimes people ask that question and they just say, oh, what inspires you? And they expect it to be something, good. Actually, what inspires me is seeing people not live out their dreams, seeing people, fall into a sadness, so I do feel like part of the reason why I'm here on this planet is to spark, to bring life, to keep people motivated, to, have people with their purpose, and just living life to the fullest. So although amazing things that are good inspire me, it's also, the darkness that makes me want to keep going.
Wow. That is so powerful, because it is sad to see people with such potential not living it out. So thank you for being that inspiration and for helping them tap into that so that they don't have to lose sight of who they are and can actually see themselves the way we see them. Yeah, so good. Lisa, how about you? What was a moment in your career when you, what taught you the power of leading with dignity, and what do you hope leaders remember when having hard conversations?
Oh my gosh, such a long answer. Be prepared, because you must have done your homework, because human dignity is what I'm all about. And when I think about a moment that taught me the power of leading with dignity, I go straight to my hospitality days, and a season that included a lot of hard workforce decisions that I needed to make sure maintained the dignity of myself, but more importantly, the dignity of others. And I remember this one particular employee who always showed up with pride. He was reliable, steady, respected, what I call the heart of the house, right? That runs on people like that. And I remember realizing it during this particular season, it was 9/11. And I had to coordinate the layoff of over 200 people. And I remember realizing the experiences that I'd experienced along the way and what I would have wanted for myself at those times. And in a very real way, that leadership is not just what you decide, it's how you deliver the decision that is decided. Because in that moment, I wasn't only representing the company, I was shaping a human experience. People say, oh, HR, it's not brain science. You're not, saving lives. Yeah, you could be, right? Because that shapes how someone would walk out of the room and talk about themselves. And, fast forward, here's this big, massive layoff. I coordinated training for all of the leaders to send the message in a certain way and have that empathy and go through what could have, in some situations, been a 45-minute conversation with each person. And, it's important that leaders, through dignity, understand that employees need to be spoken. They can't be spoken like they're irreplaceable, right? To just make sure that they always walk out with their dignity intact. That's kind of one of my mottos, right? And so I remember, him sitting across the table. I can't remember every word I said, but I remember what I refused to do. I refused to hide behind cold, scripted language, although I had a template, right? Some things that must be said. I refused to rush it and make it about making myself feel better to get it over with. And I refused to make him carry confusion on top of the pain of losing his job of no fault of his own. Because here's what leaders forget. And Maya Angelou says it very well, right? People will replay those conversations for years. They may not remember the exact phrasing, the exact wording, but they'll remember how you made them feel about themselves while you said it. That's dignity. You can be clear without being cruel. You could be direct without being damaging. And that's why my professional motto is transforming the human and human resources. And I believe business success and human decency, they're not trade-offs. Maintaining dignity is critical.
Right. Absolutely.
I could go on and on, girl. But I think that's a lot.
Yeah. And as you were talking, I couldn't help but reflect back on my own corporate journey and remembering those days when I had been taken to a room with other people and they said, today's your last day.
Oh, gosh. With other people? Oh, I'm cringing.
It was like 30 in the same room. And that same conversation was being had in like 3 or 4 other rooms, with 30 more people in each room. Yeah. It was the wildest, craziest
That's crazy.
thing. And it was, and we were all just like, wait, what? Yeah. Right, like in my life is changing. I was now.
And now in front of all these other people too, right?
No. Yeah, well, fortunately, it let us know that we weren't alone in this whole craziness.
Right.
And so we were able to support and encourage and, one another. But it was not an easy experience. And now looking back, put myself in the place of those people who had to be the ones to deliver the message. Hearing you speak about the dignity and how important that is as a leader for you to share that kind of information with dignity. Yeah. They actually kind of did. Yeah. They just basically stated some facts of what the situation was, what's currently happening, and why we were in this room.
Yeah. Cringing. When you lead with dignity, you don't add harm on top of an already difficult situation or hard situation. And let's face it, those aren't the easiest conversations, right? The better prepared leaders can be to deliver those conversations. They must always remember, every time someone walks into your office, you're holding something fragile. Their trust, their sense of worth, the reason that they came into that office to begin with, and their story about themselves. Handle it with care. Handle it with
care. Oh, so good. So good. I love that. Thank you. All right.
Thanks for inviting me back.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Congratulations. Happy anniversary.
Thank you. We're going to go to Hutch. Hutch, your work centers on connecting people and creating opportunities. What inspired you to dedicate your whole life to helping others grow through community and collaboration?
Well, it's interesting, the great question. But first, I want to say happy anniversary. Glad to be here. So celebrating Renee Speaks, I think, is a great way to talk about inspiration and collaboration, because you're doing that every day. But Ikaba was born out of a simple belief. Talent is everywhere, but access is not. And there are a lot of people with great talent who just don't have an access point by which to be able to be found, to be able to connect to what they need in order to get what they want and what they're trying to accomplish. And so that's really where how I got into this, because of a really, kind of inbred, born commitment to helping others, which came from my parents. My mother was a social worker and my father was an entrepreneur. My mother used to always tell us, to whom much is given, much is required. We are our brother's keeper. My dad was a phenomenal collaborator. I remember his first company that I became aware of was called Jerome, Hutchinson and Associates. And I remember looking at this brochure, and there was these 7 Black men that he had assembled together as a consulting firm, and they all were very powerful people. He went on after that to be the chairman of the first Black bank in the state of Kentucky, again, collaborating with others to start that bank. And I became aware of that. So I wasn't aware of it in the sense that I was really paying attention, saying, oh, he's collaborating, but it became something that I kind of grew up in. And when the time came, those things really almost just became kind of natural for me. I think the other thing is that I have embraced the pursuit of significance over the pursuit of success. And success is what you do for you. Significance is what you do that impacts others. And that's legacy building, and that's what you leave behind. And so that's really, my motivation. I truly believe that when we connect, we collaborate, we can elevate together. And I've seen that, and that was what was kind of a part of my DNA as I grew up. And so what ended up being kind of interesting was my mother is a social worker, my dad is an entrepreneur. In 2015, I was going through what we typically do at the end of a year and just kind of saying, hey, okay, well, this is where I am, this is where am I going? Who am I? Am I doing what I'm supposed to do? And one of the things that happened during the exercises that I was going through was I realized I had become a social impact entrepreneur. And I'm like, okay, how can I become a social entrepreneur? So it had been, inbred into my whole DNA. And so that's why, I do, what I do. And I love to help see people achieve their goals, their aspirations, and their dreams. And a lot of times, they're looking for, how can I get connected to the resources, the information, and the people that I need to, to be able to do that. And one of the last things I'll say is this. What we've strived to do with ACABA is, when I grew up, people talked about is who you know. And then it became, who knows you. Mm-hmm. What we try to do is add another layer to that. That is, how do they know you? So like ACABA, we showcase people who are doing great things, who are very accomplished, and put them on, if you will, a pedestal, so to speak, so people can realize how great they are. And so that when people find out who they are, they don't just find out who they are, but they find out how great they are. And that can really help as they move forward with their brand, with their company, and anything they're doing individually.
Yes, absolutely. And who of us can actually say that we got where we are today by ourselves? Honestly, right? It just doesn't happen. There has to be collaboration. There has to be connection. There has to be community, so that people, like you said, Hutch, know who you are. So that when they're in their circles or of influence, or they're in their networks and they're having conversations, they think about you when it's relevant. We can't be known if we're not out there getting to know people, right? That sounds kind of like what it is that you're saying. The message that you want people to know and understand is that being in business, doing life, it isn't just about you. It's about those that you impact, and it's about those that know you.
And hopefully, as you know, Renee, from talking with me, what we do is a movement. It's not just a company. It's not just a brand. It's not just an event, but it's a movement. And we need the world to know the talent that people of color have all across the world. But actually, what we need to do, more important than anything else, is to let people know who are of color, how great we are. Right. And because, I'll never forget years ago, I think it was the first year we were in business, we had given some books to some kids with the 100 Black Men organization I was a part of. It was one of the mentees. And in the next meeting, one of the kids came up to me and asked me for another book. And I said, well, didn't you get one, to the event that you came to? He said, yeah, I did. He says, but I don't want to take the wrapping off of it,
Right.
But what that told me was, there was something in his heart, in his soul, in his spirit, that he knew that there was something special there, and he wanted it to stay special. And he didn't want to break it, but he wanted to read it, but he didn't want to break it. So I gave him another book. But we have to believe how great we are, and so anyway, I'll stop.
Yeah, that is so good. And it reminds me, Hutch, of when someone said to me, you're a leader. And I was like, what? and they saw in me something I never even saw for myself. And so for you to be able to provide that to him and to actually allow him to see that he could be something other than what he is, and how much he valued that. How powerful and how impactful that must have been. And even with starting this business, someone else had to tell me I was supposed to be a business owner. I was like, no, I'm quite happy in corporate America with my 2-week paid vacation and health insurance benefits. So no, thank you. I don't want to be a business owner. Mm-hmm. But then, all it takes is a seed, one little seed to get planted. And then it's like,
it's important. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, for sure.
That's why my mentorship is so important, because getting in the minds of young people is very important. Once you plant that seed when they are younger and you tell them that they are amazing, they can do anything, that they can believe in themselves. Once it's engraved in them, it never, yes, trauma and things like that can break it, but there's a grounding inside of you. And that's why it's important because for me to hear you say that you were in corporate and you were a full adult and didn't know your potential means, and we're not saying that our parents have done anything wrong all the way, but how can we be supportive at a younger age?
Right.
It's very important. It's very important to have mentors and have the resources and share information. People don't like to share information. And that's what we need to continue to grow so that we won't be 45 in offices saying that this isn't me, or somebody being surprised by somebody saying that you're amazing.
Yes.
At 50.
Yes. 100%. And words of affirmation go so far because once you start hearing these things about yourself, you start to believe in yourself, you start to have this newfound confidence in yourself because somebody spoke a word. Yeah. It's just a word. It's free. It is a word, but it was so impactful and mattered so much. And it makes such a huge difference. And once you start hearing these things, you start thinking thoughts that you never thought you'd ever think. Mm-hmm. Like putting yourself in this new space, in this new sentence that says, Renee is a millionaire. All it took was one person to say, this is $1 million business. I was like, what? Okay, I'm still waiting on it, but I'm just saying, I believe that the potential exists.
You're rich, you're here with us.
Absolutely, every day, all day, no matter what the bank account say. All day. So I am so excited that you guys are here, and we have so many amazing guests that are joining in the show. Nia, she says she's so sorry to be late, but we're just glad you're here, Nia. John Paul, thank you so much. All you guys, so super excited that you are here. Let's move on to Khalilah. Khalilah, who inspired you before you recognized that you were inspiring?
I was so delighted by when I saw this question, the response that came naturally to my spirit. And it was two, if I can share two different responses to this. The first is actually a collection of who's. And so it was this book, I don't know if you can see it, The Black Poets, edited by Dudley Randall. So I discovered this book, and I'm a storyteller, so this will be a few minutes, but not too long because I don't want to hijack. But I discovered this book at the age of 11. So I read this book at 6th grade and 7th grade. And when I discovered it and was able to see all these different ways that poetry could be expressed, it was so beyond what had been brought to me at grade school in East St. Louis at that time, of being inspired to see poetry in the form of spiritual poems, folklore poems. This has the Harlem Renaissance, the 1960s, all these different types of poets and all of their different styles of poetry. It ignited in me and inspired in me an understanding of I can express myself in many different ways. There were so many different ways at that age I was holding myself back as we talk about children and what adults are saying to us. I wasn't getting that affirmation, but this book gave me that affirmation of how I can speak and the power of concentrated pieces of language, what it is to have intention with rhythm, language, meaning, the power and the experiences and these stories and these short moments of poetry, right? It's very different than the narratives that you get with stories, but there's these narratives there and how quickly they can shift your mind, shift how your feet move, shift your daily moments. So it gave me and inspired me at that age at 11, and how it still stands for me today at the age of 47, the power of how words can bring deep meaning, the power of how words can change us. And so I remember being 11 and in my room alone in East St. Louis, just starting to write all these different poems and learning how to express myself in different ways, because I wanted to have my poem structured. And sometimes these poems can be unstructured, right? And leaning into our imperfect excellence, what that means. And so I bring a lot of that to how I work, right? The power of language and concise, contained language, what it means to be a home for us, what it means to be a mirror for us, what it means to be a map for us, and how we can be all these different things. And so when I'm coaching, when I'm consulting, when I have my book, that's exactly what I want to bring. I want connection that brings transformation from the words and how that can happen instantly. So when we're talking about affirmations, right? If I'm with a leader and I'm talking about, I want you to be someone who's no longer of control, but of curiosity. I want you to be a leader leading the journey and not thinking about jobs. Or if I'm with a woman and I'm coaching her and I'm saying, you are authorized to rise. You own your power, not others' perspectives. Or, I was with young girls just a few days ago doing a session around my framework, Be-less Living, and speaking to them about how someone sees you as what's possible, right? All of that, poetry, and thinking about that, and the concise power, the power we can have in concise language is how I move and how I bring, I would say, lyrical lessons to me and how I inform individuals in spaces and their birthright authority when I'm working with different organizations and thinking about their enterprise agency. The power of words, and the power of words that we can take right with us, that can stick with us, that can sustain us and move us, and then how we use our words and working with people on how they leverage and steward their words as ministry, right? We talk about a movement, and I also see it as we all have this everyday ministry, and it's accessible to us, right? All of this is accessible to me from a book, this collection of poets right here in a book. And the other way that I have been inspired, and I always have to give honor to her, is my grandmother, Martha Coleman. She inspired me before I knew I was inspiring others. She's no longer with us, but when I think about her at 411 in her home, East St. Louis, this steady power, unconditional love, her independence, her fierceness, her quiet authority, so much of that inspires how I stand as a leader, as a speaker, as a coach, as a writer, that quiet authority and embracing all the different dualities of myself in the same way that she did, owning I can be visionary and vulnerable, I can be poetic and pragmatic, I can be spiritual, but also very serious when I'm having conversations and interacting. A lot of that I got from my grandmother, and also in thinking about connection when I'm interacting with people, again, not transactional, but making sure it's always transformational. That was because of her and her commitment to, no matter what she was doing, what is this experience? What is this experience on my porch with her? What's the experience in the backyard with her? When you sit at the table with her, she was so much about the experience. And so I carry that with me today. So thinking about 11 years old with this book to 47 years old, and as I stand today, those were a collection of who, and a very powerful who with my grandmother, of how I approach inspiring others with good conversation, always providing clear steps, right? How can I take these ideas and codify them so you can have your personal authority or enterprise authority, and always focused on the community too. I'm very in tune with whatever we do as individuals. How does that feed into the collective prosperity? But all of that has come from poetry at a young age, and my grandmother and who she was the majority of my life.
Wow. That is so good. First of all, you don't look a day over 30.
That's why I wear these glasses, Renee. Seriously. I'm like, I gotta manage that bias. It's a real bias that I've dealt with a lot.
Yes, you look amazing.
Thank you so much for sharing that. It's so, I love how you called our voice a birthright authority.
Yes. Yeah.
I love those words together. That
the power of words, right? It does sticks with you, right? Mm-hmm.
It resonates with my spirit, like down deep in my soul. Like, I don't know if it impacted anyone else that way, but that was so powerful that we have a birthright authority to speak, to use our voice, to be heard, and we should be heard. We have amazing things to say.
Yes. Absolutely.
No one else can say it because they're our words. So we do people a disservice by not sharing our words. And so you being in the line of work that you are, as helping people to become storytellers, draw out of them, all the different things that they need so that they can truly express themselves in a way that does resonate with their audience, whether it's their team members or their leadership or the people that they report to or who they serve in the community, whatever it looks like. Thank you. Thank you so much for what you do and how you serve others. And Majestic Gabby says, yes, very powerful, very, very powerful. So thank you guys so much for being so inspirational to not only me, but to our entire audience. And thank you to your grandmother for setting that example for you of what it looks like to create an experience wherever you go. I saw this little sign that said, leave a little sparkle wherever you go.
A little sparkle. I don't know her name. I'm able to say her name. I don't know if I said it, but I just wanted to honor her by saying her name, Martha Coleman. And so I'm Martha Suga Babe. So I just wanted to make sure I said that.
Martha Coleman, thank you. Thank you. Sparkle, we getting all the sparkle.
Right.
I call it pixie dust. If you could see my little Mickey Mouse on the shelf.
I love that. Love it. And as we think about, though, our own selves, Khalilah, you have really prompted us to think about what impact are we having on the lives of the people that our paths get to cross.
Right.
What kind of interaction are we having? Whether we're at the grocery store during the Christmas season, or we are in a library or Starbucks, it doesn't matter. Wherever we are, how do people feel when they are in our presence? What vibe are we giving off?
Mm-hmm.
People can feel it.
Yeah.
If you're walking around with attitude or bad, feeling bad energy, nobody wants that. There's enough of that that's out of our control.
One of the things. Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay. One of the things in my book, the first benchmark in my book is focusing on who you want to be for the day before we get to what we want to do. And so much of when I take people through that exercise, whether it's a workshop or coaching, and thinking about who you want to be before you get to who you want to do, it's also thinking about how do you, at the end of the day, want to reflect on how people experienced you, right? To what you were saying, no matter what the circumstance was, how are they going to experience you? And if we can get intentional about that and then have those words written down somewhere, how we can go back and anchor to that despite what the situation is, because our exchange of words, it does empower someone else's world, right? And we forget that and we take that for granted. So always anchoring in that.
Yeah, to that point too, Khalilah, hard conversations are going to happen, right? Whether they're personal conversations or private conversations, and clarity is kindness. I always say, one of my big things is, how do I say what I've got to say, right? What are the talking points? And, dignity sounds like this. Here's what's happening. Here's why it's happening. And here's what comes next, right? Clear, calm, respectful, so that there's clarity there and delivered with kindness, right? To maintain that person's dignity and your own as well in that conversation, and not run from it. So I second that,
Yes.
Bye, thought. I'll see you later.
No, but it sounds like you're saying, Lisa, she's preaching to the choir.
Yeah.
Yes, it resonates with all of us. Yes, absolutely. 100%. The impact that we have on others and how our words are landing on the people.
They matter.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mhm.
How are our words landing? That used to be such a blind spot for me. And so I've worked for years on overcoming that blind spot because I wasn't aware of how my words were coming out. And as a founder of a business and as a leader of a corporation or whatever, we have to think about how our words are landing on the people in our presence and make sure they're landing well and that they leave feeling much better than before they came to us.
For sure.
You know, I think it's also understanding that we all have the same emotions. Sometimes in life, people really think that we don't feel the same, but we are all the same humans. We bleed the same blood. We have the same emotions. But for some reason, when stressful situations come up, it's like people lose all thought of that. So to keep in mind that we all share the same emotions really helps with, you know, communication and receiving and those difficult conversations.
Yes, absolutely. And no one is immune. And some people may have these tough exteriors, but there are people nonetheless underneath there, you know, that have emotions and
deep down.
Right, for some is deeper than others, right? There though.
Okay, y'all, this has been such a great segment. I have just kind of a firestorm of one question for each one of you as we wrap up this segment. And what is one thought or encouragement that you want people to leave with from this conversation today? If they don't remember nothing else, one sentence, what do you want them to remember? We'll start with Hutch, you've been quiet.
Somebody said, I think that question is coming to me. So I think the most important thing is we all rise together. And if we can walk away knowing that, you know, you pass by this way, and if there is nothing that you do for someone else, there will be a void of an empty space when you leave here. And well, let me say it again and say it right. There will be an empty space when you leave here. But when you pass by this way and you touch someone, whether it's through clarity, whether it's through helping them with the authority that they need to have with their words, whether it's helping them to know their worth, there will be a void when you leave. And, you know, that is what I think we all want to accomplish, that when we leave, that there's somebody who's going to stop for a moment and say, life well lived. I don't remember everything he said, but he made me feel good about knowing him. But more importantly, he made me feel good about being me because I knew him. And that's what I strive for every day.
Aww.
Wow. Right?
That's so good.
Thank you. So good. Awesome. Mo, why don't you go next?
Man, you got me all warm inside. I'm like, I don't say anymore. Oh my goodness. Can you repeat the question?
Yeah. If people don't remember nothing else about inspiration and how they can be an inspiration, what do you want them to remember from today's show?
From today's show, the power of words. You know, speaking positive to yourself, speaking positive to others, and how words can make a difference in how you live your life. And don't be afraid to use them.
I love that. And Lisa.
This is easy for me. Personal success and business success and human decency aren't trade-offs. They truly are one and the same.
Oh, that's so good. Because people try to separate. All right. And Khalilah, why don't you round us out with this segment of today's show?
I will. You know, I happen to, I do this exercise of purpose immersion where I just pour into people. So I'm going to do 4 statements. I just happen to have it up on my screen because I'll be doing it later this weekend. 1, life is to be experienced and not achieved. So please remember that. The war is not your truth. The war is because of your truth. You own your power, not other people's opinions. And please do something to honor your dreams today.
Wow. Y'all, this was so good. So good. So good. Thank you so much. Just applause, applause, applause. I hope that we can bring that out in the show. This was so good. I truly appreciate each and every one of you so much. You each have been an inspiration to me, even though we may not have spent the most amount of time together. My time in your presence has been memorable, and that's why I invited you to be here, a part of the show.
Likewise.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Likewise. And
It's been great, and we look forward to staying in touch.
And again, congratulations. Well
Yes,
done.
congratulations, Renee. Congratulations to everyone here. It's been amazing. Thank you for curating this.
All
Thank
right.
you guys. So we'll have you guys go backstage. We'll have a short commercial break and bring on our next segment after this.
Executive Help Now, a strategic partner to founders, investors, venture capitalists, and portfolio company leaders. We are powered by US-based fractional team members to drive operational excellence and scalable success. Podcast production simplified. Do you want a powerful podcast but have zero time? With us, you just show up and talk. We provide done-for-you services like booking, remote production, editing, and live broadcasts, all brought to you by live stream editors. Scan these QR codes for more information. But wait, there's more. Get 5 shows for the price of 4 when you book us until January 31st.
Hello, and welcome back to our second segment of today's celebration. In this segment, we will be discussing the gift of growth. And as we discuss the gift of growth, it's going to be with a focus on learning, evolution, and becoming. Let's start with our first guest that we want to introduce today. Ashlee Cervantes, who is the founder and CEO of Guardian Protection Force, Inc. We also have Tom Fox, who is the president and compliance of the Compliance Podcast Network. Chris Walker, who is the CEO of Legit. And Amanda Furgiuele, who is the CEO of AF Consulting Team. Y'all, put your hands together for all of our great guests. All right, we need to add them to the show. Hello, Ashlee. Hey, Tom. Hey, Amanda.
Hey.
Hi, Renee. Thank you so much for having us today. Congratulations. Yes.
Thank you so much. We're going to have our previous guests exit the studio and continue watching us on live streaming on YouTube or LinkedIn or Facebook. And we're going to go ahead and get started with our segment of the show, which is the gift of growth. And as I mentioned earlier, there are so many things that happen in our lives, and you all truly and it had an impact on me as I learned about your story, what you've been through, where you came from, and where you are today. And you all are just inspirational. So I had to have you on the show to talk about the gift of growth. And so, Ashlee, let's start with you. You've grown from managing teams in high-risk environments to leading multiple security organizations. What season of growth stretched you the most, and what did it require for you to learn or to change?
Renee, you and these like amazing questions. I just wanted to come mentally prepared with a clean slate because you just throw such insightful and thoughtful questions at me, and I love that about you. So we have been in business. My physical security firm has been in business for 15 years. I have a startup, which is a technology focused security company that you kind of mentioned. And we will be celebrating 2 years in March. And so it's just
hold on. Let's not rush past that. That is deserving of some applause because to get to an anniversary is a big deal. So congrats to you with our applauses.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it is. It's this like it's wild. You know, the only thing I know to connect it back to is like having children, right? And for any mothers listening, especially if you're a mother of more than one child, you know that nature plays this fun little trick on us. And you very shortly after you have the first child, you forget all the horror that you underwent to birth a human into the world. And so it's kind of like that. So I'd been in business for 13 years and I was like, oh, I can start another business. So stretch pains, when I think about that, back to your question, I think just bringing on something new, building like kind of birthing this concept that had been brewing for like 10 years for me into the world 2 years ago while maintaining my physical security business and all of the trials that, didn't just go away overnight because I started a new company. I think that was definitely the season. And how am I working through that? Because it's live in action right now. I think just the reminder that we have to take everything, sometimes down to like 1 minute at a time, and just trying not to get too far ahead of ourselves, because that is just such a powerful mantra, to focus on 1 minute, one breath, 1 hour, 1 day at a time, however we have to chug and power through, and just to remember that everything comes in waves and seasons, and that's the beauty of this life.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, 100%. I couldn't agree more. There, and it's amazing what we realize we're capable of once we actually get in it. It's like, because like you said, you forget the pain of the original childbirth. But then you get into the second one and you're like, this is a lot, but I've been here before. I know I can do it. Other people are doing it. I know I can do it too. But it definitely is that realization that now not only do you have what you already had, and that continues with its own special things, the regular routines, but now you're adding on more on top of that. And so it was great that you shared with us that you basically realized that this is temporary until it becomes normal. Then it becomes a part of the new routine. That's what it sounded like you were saying to me.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think you summarized that so eloquently. Thank you.
Well, you are so welcome. Thank you for sharing. I do appreciate that. And so does anyone else have anything to comment on that when it comes to, stretching and growing? What are some nuances associated that you've had to deal with as you've stretched it and as you've grown? Amanda or Tom?
Yeah, actually, I was chuckling as she was talking about you forget about your second kid. I only have one kid, but that's because I remember vividly what it was like. So I wouldn't have it. I will start businesses left and right all day long because I feel like that's in my wheelhouse. So I have multiple businesses for just that reason, that I love to grow. But I conveniently forget how horrible it is at the beginning, or can be at the beginning. And that's such a perfect way to describe it, because you forget how hard things are. And when you're in this growth cycle, sometimes you forget the worst parts because you're not meant to remember them. You're meant to remember the highs. You're meant to experience that excitement. You're meant to grow in ways that you could never in a million years imagine. until you're in it. And so I think that was a perfect way to just kind of sum up. I mean, for those of you who don't have kids, you probably don't know the thing, but I mean, I remember everything about that first kid. That's why I don't have a second one. And, I also, it takes a while for me to remember how hard it is to start. And when I work with business owners who are just starting out, it's like, oh yeah, I do remember how much that sucked, or I do remember going through that. I do remember that phase or that cycle. And it really makes you a better leader ultimately if you can remember it and then grow from it and learn from it and evolve beyond that. Because no matter what, no matter how seasoned you are as a business owner or as a parent in that case, there are going to be things that sneak up on you, and it's what you do after the fact. It's not necessarily what happens because it's going to happen. There's always going to be uncomfortable moments, but it's not the fact that there's uncomfortable moments. It's what you do after the fact.
That's right. Absolutely. Because they're going to come. they're going to come. It's inevitable. For sure. 100%. So, Tom, as we think about, you are someone who's shaped conversations around ethics and compliance. What belief or approach did you have to unlearn?
Let me start off by saying I haven't had any children, so I can't really comment on that experience. But let me pick up on sort of one of the points in my stories for this reason. I've made 2 full business pivots since 2010. One, I was laid up due to a bicycle car accident. And the second was I moved into full-time podcasting. And in the accident, I didn't have any work. I'm a lawyer. I didn't have any clients. All I had on my hands was time. And this was 2010. And I started exploring social media. And back then you could actually do business on Twitter, but Twitter, LinkedIn, started blogging, etc. Well, I built, within 6 months, I had a worldwide consulting practice literally out of my house while on a walker. And the only time I left my house was to go to physical therapy. The only mistake I made was not trademarking the phrase working from home, because I would have made a lot of money. Right. But what I learned from that experience was when the universe closes a door, it always opens another door. And I knew that. But part 2 of that is you have to have the courage to walk through that door. That's what I learned from that experience. Now, I was laid up. I had no work. I had no clients. We were relatively okay financially. So I was desperate, though, to do something to start working again. The second was I founded the Compliance Podcast Network in 2017. In 2019, I decided I had to commit or move it to it fully or move it to hobby status. So I quit practicing law. I bought all the cool toys you see. I built this huge infrastructure. And at the end of 2019, I'd made about $10,000. And I thought, well, that was an interesting experiment. I guess I have to go back to practicing law, which I did till they shut the country down on March 15th of that year. Well, what happened was 2 months later, I started getting calls literally from every product provider in the compliance space with the same question: how long to get access to your network? Because I had the only podcast network. I had the largest social media presence. And because of the work I'd done in 2019, my answer was the same: 24 hours. It was just literally a drop and drag or plug and play. And so my income went in May of that year from $5,000 a month to June of that year, $35,000 a month in 1 month. My numbers went from 125,000 podcast downloads per month to 250,000 from June to August of that year. And since that time, I've just tried to first year, I just rode the tiger. And since then, I've been trying to manage that growth. But the point was, the universe opened that door for me and I had to walk through it. Now, once again, it was easy because we were in COVID and nobody was working and everybody was home. And I ran into the anomalous situation of having people with money and know where to spend it, except
wow.
with me. So if you're an entrepreneur, if you're starting a new business, just be aware the universe is going to give you an opportunity, but you do have to have courage. And that stymied me for a long time in my life, that I didn't have the courage to change. So if you've got in you to have a baby or have a child or start a business or do something that's truly life-changing, you have it in you to walk through that door. So if there's one thing I'd like people to remember from my part of today is have the courage to walk through that door.
Wow. Wow. That is so good. So good. So good. And that growth, Tom, I'm sure you can shed some light, because when you're going from $5,000 a month in income to $35,000 a month in income, there's a whole different shift in the way you operate and the way you handle requests, responses, how you respond, and how you manage the money. Right? Am I wrong there? I mean, fill us in. How do you manage all of that growth so suddenly?
Managing money was easy. I'm terrible at it. So it was terrible. Although I did get out of debt for the first time in my adult life that year. But once again, remember, we're in lockdown. I literally had nothing else to do. My wife worked from home. We ate dinner at home. The only time we left the house was for her to go grocery shopping, and that was curbside pickup. So we were the isolation Nazis. And I started getting up at 4 or 5 in the morning, and I spent 6 hours a day on social media promoting these new podcasts I had. Once again, because I had nothing else to do. And so I learned how to do it. I learned what you needed to do to promote and drive engagement by doing it. And sort of towards the end of that year, I finally realized I couldn't sustain that pace. So I brought in people to help me do the social media engagement part, and it just grew organically. But I had a process and had a system that I was able to create because I had the time to do it. And that's the opportunity COVID gave me.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. And that's so, while COVID was horrible on so many levels, there's so much that was revealed in COVID, not only in terms of who we are as people, but what we are capable of becoming. So I thank you. I absolutely thank you for sharing your experience with us and helping us to understand. Well, it sounds like the systems or processes that you had in place were you could repeat them over and over again easily and quickly. So
Right.
those systems, when you have repeatable systems in place, it's easy to help as you scale, to continue scaling, because you're just doing the same thing. Wash, rinse, and repeat over and over again.
Create once, use a lot.
Yeah. What was that?
Create once, use a lot.
Yeah. Create once, use a lot. I love that. Absolutely. And we have a little bit of background noise. Ask some folks to mute. But this has been truly, truly wonderful. And we had another guest on our show that we were planning to speak with, who also just is inspirational. We're hoping that he can make it back into the show. But until then, Amanda, you've grown businesses while navigating real life responsibilities. What kind of growth required the biggest mindset shift for you? And what did it teach you about yourself?
You know, when you sent this question, it was almost a God moment, because if you had asked me this question when I was first starting out as an entrepreneur, I probably wouldn't have wanted to answer it, because in the beginning, in the olden days, I had a lot of ego. I had a lot of, I can do anything better than anyone else as long as I work harder. And one of the biggest mindset shifts I had to make, and it's always a work in progress. We're never going to be perfect. It's always work in progress. But it wasn't about scaling revenue. You can always make more money, but it really was about finding growth that is sustainable, because you can't sustain any other way. And early on, I thought that growth meant more hours. I thought it meant sacrifice. I thought it meant I had to be more available for things. And I believed if I could just do more, that I would get where I wanted to go. And, it was a lot of this mindset of, as long as I can outwork everybody, then I will achieve whatever I want to achieve. And the hardest part about that was, you have to shift from being in your business to leading your business. And that required letting go of a lot of control. And I have absolutely a control freak. I have a lot of ego. I had to get over myself. I mean, I was in my 20s and owning businesses. I was so hot shot. And it really, one of the biggest identity things I had to really overcome was this idea that if you want it done right, you have to do it yourself. And that wasn't really a strategy. That was a self-trust issue. I didn't trust myself to trust other people. So it was a wild thing to have to overcome. And I was growing businesses while managing real life. I had teams, I had clients, I had responsibilities. I had a young son. He's special needs. I homeschool him. So there's a lot of things that go on in the background. But growth isn't going to be polite about things. It's going to demand that you are mature about it, and that, understanding that you're not a martyr. You're not a martyr to all this, like, I have to get more done. I have to do more things. I'm not a martyr. You're not a martyr. And I'll give an example of how I thought that working more made me a better owner. And again, this is probably like 15, maybe 20 years ago. I don't know. It was a while ago. But I had 1 month where I couldn't make payroll. And in order to make payroll, I took on this martyr role of, I can't make payroll, but I'm such a good boss that I'm not going to pay myself I'm so selfless. I'm not going to pay myself. And that makes me a better boss. But that didn't make me a better boss. I mean, that kind of growth isn't noble. It's irresponsible. And there were a lot of decisions I was making as a business owner that were irresponsible. And when it comes down to it, burnout doesn't just affect you. It affects your family. It affects your clients. It affects your team. Everything is around there. So you have to stop asking yourself, like, how much more can I handle? Or I can do this, I can do that. And start saying instead, what do I have to change to be more sustainable? Because sustainable is what you want in the long run. It can't just be a one woman show. And I had to unlearn things like I think rest is lazy. You have to unlearn that, or that boundaries mean that you're a difficult person to work with, or that leadership is all about self-sacrifice. Those are absolutely not the case. That's not true at all. And it really taught me something about myself that's really hard, that power isn't enduring more. It isn't taking on more work because you're going to sit on this pedestal of, I'm so busy, I have so much to do, and I'm so important. But you have to intentionally decide what is important. And when it comes to like real world navigation, it really is about prioritization. Like, what is important? What is going to move the needle? What's going to get the most out of my time? I mean, do you want to be the person who does everything, or do you want to be the person who gets it done quickly, who doesn't need to do all the other stuff? I mean, it's not necessarily about output. So it really requires a lot of restraint, prioritization. I mean, not everything deserves your energy and time and attention. So, people think that it's all about strategy, and it absolutely is about strategy and systems. And I will forever say that it is systems and strategy that will get you there. But it also requires you to let go of a lot of things about who you thought you were, about who you think you have to be to truly, really to survive to that next level. I mean, real growth doesn't necessarily demand more of you. It demands a more truer version of you, and for you to prioritize ruthlessly.
Right. Oh, I love that. Prioritize ruthlessly. I haven't heard it put quite that way, but that is so, so true. And I love how you shared with us, Amanda, that there, as you So we all need to do a little bit of introspection. Like, who am I? What do I believe? And what is keeping me from getting to that next level? I think for there's a big part of me that says you guys have figured that out because you have gone from being a much smaller version of yourself to a large, very large and in charge version of yourself. That you are now, you're mentors and exemplary role models for us to follow. So I'm so grateful that you guys are here to help educate us on what we first need to do if we want to grow ourselves, not only ourselves personally, but grow our businesses, grow our impact, all those sorts of things, and what we need to do to make that happen. And like you said, you discovered that you had some trust issues. I can relate to that. I can relate to that very well. And I really just appreciate having you be on the show today to talk about the importance of getting over rethinking how you think about delegating, trusting somebody else with your stuff, and allowing them in so that you're not working so much in your business, but you can actually be working on your business because you have released those things that no longer serve you as the owner and actually do you a disservice because it's keeping you from being able to do the things that you should be doing as the owner, right? So thank you guys for that very, very much. I definitely appreciate your input and feedback into that. Are there any other suggestions or thoughts that you guys have about growth? When a lot of the founders that maybe are watching or listening in have maybe some difficulty with scaling, what are some things that they should keep in mind as they're thinking about scaling? Anyone want to jump in?
I'll jump in all day long about scaling. You know, when it comes to growth and scaling, I think one of the things that we underutilize is the concept of action, that even a micro action will get you further than just the planning stage. And obviously we want strategy. We want to think things through. Planning is important. However, if you sit in that planning forever, I mean, it's never going to be perfect. It's never going to be the right time. It's never going to be this perfect storm of occasions where everything's going to fall in line. So even if you can just do micro actions, and for me, I always recommend for anybody I speak to that just think of 3 things. So if you're scaling your business and you have this specific goal in mind, it's think about the things that you do on a daily basis that are the needle movers to get to that. And it might not be a revenue goal. It could be a time goal. It could be a team building goal, whatever that goal is. But think about the needle movers, the things that are actually moving you in that direction, and pick out 3 things you can do every single day to move you in that direction. They don't have to be big. It could just be maybe you're doing outreach to somebody. Maybe you're making a connection. Maybe you're going to a networking event. Maybe you're sending one email, and that's the thing that's going to push you in that direction. But even if it's a micro move, do 3 moves every single day that move you in the direction of that ultimate goal, and you'll see it come much faster. So when it comes to growth, when it comes to scaling, it's the micro actions done consistently that are going to get you there much faster than just this windfall where something might fall into your lap and suddenly you have 1 million subscribers and you have orders coming in. Those events happen, but they're few and far between. So if you can focus on the micro actions, that will get you further in the long run than just hoping for some big giant gesture to come out from the universe.
Right. Amanda, that is so, sorry, Renee, that is so huge.
Yeah.
I like, one of my favorite quotes is perfection is the enemy of progress. And I think a lot of times entrepreneurs tend to be that type A personality. We really want things to be perfect. And that's part of the control issues that we tend to have, right? So we're like, no, it has to be perfect. And you have this vision in your mind of exactly how you want it. And one of the lessons I learned really early on as a young adult is I have a huge imagination, as many entrepreneurs do, right? Like we have these big colossal dreams and visions. And I think sometimes when you spend too much time in that planning stage, you get really in your mind about what that's going to look like. And then you're not open to the beauty that the universe can deliver in different ways because you're so focused on this one particular vision. And I do think sometimes it's a balancing act because if you've been given that vision, like that's probably a vision for a reason, but we just don't want to get too much into the weeds. Like we want to let the vision come to life a little bit more organically. And I think you hit the nail on the head with those micro actions. Like we have to take the first step. We have to step out and walk through the door, as Tom said, right? We have to have the courage to walk through the doors that the universe opens us. That's an action, that's a step. And if we get so obsessed with perfecting it that we don't actually begin, that isn't going to move the needle. It's not going to get you to where you want to go, particularly when we're talking about growth. And there are seasons for maintenance and stabilization. I mean, I love the concept of, in the farming world, you have Sabbath years, right? You have years where you don't touch you allow the earth to rejuvenate. So you don't plant, you don't harvest, like you don't do any of the things. And that is okay if you're in that season, but identify the season. And then when you're ready for the growth season, we gotta check those boxes, and we gotta make sure that we're not stuck.
Right. Oh, that's such a good point. Such a good point, Ashlee. And a lot of times farmers have those the seasons of not planting or planting something else in that space to give the land time to rejuvenate or to do what it needs to do under the surface, so that the next time that it does get a crop, it can be so much more bountiful. So as a business owner, we need to be thinking about our systems, our processes. What do we have in place? Getting solid and in that space where things are just kind of running like a well-oiled machine before we start throwing some, something else in the mix and start disrupting the whole apple cart, right? So that's so important. Tom, any thoughts from you on that?
Sure. So everything I do is geared towards the publishing of a book. So I write a daily blog. I have 75 podcasts. I write white papers. I do copy and edit. I do marketing, but it's all geared towards, at the end of a day, a book. Mm-hmm. And so because that's my focus, I understand that we can, that I can create with purpose and allow me to publish 4 to 6 books a year. And so it looks like I'm this huge kind of machine. Well, maybe I am, but it's because I have this process, and my focus is going to be at the end of that on a book. And with my daily blog, for instance, I now in 26, I'm already thinking about, I have the compliance handbook, and it's now 7th edition. Well, I'm now thinking about next year in the 8th edition, what do I need to talk about? So I write a blog this week on AI governance. Well, guess what? That will go in the AI chapter next year. And so I can plan for things like that. I can do an interview with any one of you all about any of these topics that we've already talked about, and I can put it in my business leadership book. Mm-hmm. And so if you focus on what do you want to create at the end of the day, and I'm a solo, and so it allows me to create what I want to create, but it gives me the format to have a business that makes money in that creation process, because people either pay to come on my network, or they pay for me to do a podcast for them, or produce a podcast for them, or write a blog for them, or create social media marketing content for them. So that's how it looks like I'm creating all of this stuff, because it's focused on what do I want to create at the end of the day. And frankly, I don't care if a book sells or not. To me, it's important that I wrote that book. So that's the lowest revenue generating part of my business. It's the one that drives me the most.
Wow. And it's so good. Well, first of all, Tom, you are a machine. Okay. We'll just put that out there. But I think too, planning from January all the way to the end of the year for what you're going to do next year, I think just helps you stay focused and lasered in on a trajectory that gets you to where you want to be. And so I think that is just so wise for all of us as founders, business owners, leaders, executives, whatever, plan out in advance. I had one guest who said, if you are just now planning for Q1, then you're late.
You're already lost.
You're already lost. So you need to be planning for Q1 of the next year, like by July, I think is what she said. So July of the previous year, you should know what your January is going to look like, or start making plans toward that, so that you can stay at least 6 months in advance of where you're projected to go. And that helps you stay laser focused and knowing if anything else gets added into the mix, is this in alignment with what I'm seeing for our future 6 months from now? Does that make sense? Does that sound kind of like what you're saying? Am I getting that kind of right?
Yeah, I would chime in on that too. I think a lot of times, I don't know if other entrepreneurs out there are similar, but I imagine a lot of us are wired the same. And we set the goals, right? Like I finalize, we start setting goals in July, we finalize by September. Like we've got the year mapped. By September 15th, we've usually like published calendars and we're like good to go for the upcoming calendar year. It's one of my favorite things. And then we go and in the first, we dive in January 1 and we're like, we're in it to win it. And we're going 150 miles an hour. And you look up and all of a sudden it's September again and we're planning for the next year. And when did you stop one time to assess, like, how is this going? And are we like on the, we stop, usually around this time of year and we reflect back and we're like, okay, did we check all the boxes, right? Sometime between September and now, we usually stop to do that. But if you're not stopping to look up along the way, I think you kind of what Tom is describing is you can miss the mark, right? And so you want to have that strategy and that intentionality, and then we do have to just make sure we're pausing along the way to make sure that we're still headed in the right direction. And that was where my brain goes.
I absolutely agree. I think it needs to happen on a quarterly basis. So every quarter you kind of look back and you say, okay, what worked, what didn't, what do I need to adjust? Because yes, you want to have these big plans for the year. You want to think ahead. You want to have all those things. But if you've planned out Q1 of next year at this point, let's say you've already started to look at Q1 of 2027. But then when you get to March of 2026, you realize that none of that is working, that your goal that you have for 2027 is not really a true goal. It's just some sort of vanity metric that your cousin said something at dinner at Christmas. And so you put it on your list. Like, no. So reassessing at the end of each quarter to see, okay, what's working, what isn't? Am I a different person? Are my goals shifting? Is my business shifting? And, think about Recencies and Lifetime. When you are, and I'll use myself as an example, when you are going 400 miles an hour and single and like living the life and I could do whatever I want, I have nothing to burden me down. And then you get pregnant, you're like, oh, wait. I don't think that next year in 9 months, when I had planned to be in Ibiza, I don't think I'm going to be able to do that now because I'm going to be in the hospital. So you have to kind of make these choices and make these changes. It's not always going to be a big life altering thing like that. However, there are things that come up, and I like to say every quarter deserves your CEO time to look at what's working and what's not, reassess and reevaluate, and then make changes. Because if you're going to go off this, if the calendar is going to be living as it is now, then you can't be stuck to it as if it's dead. You can't stick to it with this 100%. Oh, I already wrote it in pen on my calendar, so I can't change it. Like, no, you have to be able to get out the whiteout. I mean, this is old school. Again, I'm aging myself. We had whiteout. You get it, Renee. You get it. So, but you have to think about that. Like, it's really okay to push backspace and then change your idea in the moment based on what's actually going on.
Awesome. Oh my gosh, you guys, this has been golden nuggets, like truly, truly, truly golden nuggets for us. Thank you so much for sharing your brilliance, your expertise, your gray matter with us. This has truly been such a gift. You all are such a gift. And I'm so grateful that you have shared your time and space with us and our audience today. This segment has been truly wonderful, inspirational, impactful, and now we're all ready to go out and set our calendars in order for 2027, even though we're right now in 2026. So thank you guys for being here today. I truly appreciate you. Feel free to continue watching us live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. And we are just so grateful to you. So thank you so much for joining us in our celebration.
Congratulations, Renee.
Congratulations.
Thank you for having us, Renee.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And now let's cut to our little break before segment 3. Stick around.
Executive Help Now, a strategic partner to founders, investors, venture capitalists, and portfolio company leaders. We are powered by US-based fractional team members to drive operational excellence and scalable success. Podcast production simplified. Do you want a powerful podcast but have zero time? With us, you just show up and talk. We provide done-for-you services like booking, remote production, editing, and live broadcasts, all brought to you by live stream editors. Scan these QR codes for more information. But wait, there's more. Get 5 shows for the price of 4 when you book us until January 31st.
Hello, and welcome back to segment 3 of our 3rd birthday celebration. I can't wait to share with you our amazing guests that we have here to share with you the gift of purpose. The gift of purpose is, we couldn't have a better guest than Dan. Dan Johnson is truly a matchmaker like none other. He is the chief consultant of Next Level, and he truly is next level, y'all. We also have Sandy Corrigan. She is a trust technique practitioner with Transformation Companies, LLC. And Sandy truly was a life-changing person in my life. I can't wait to talk more about our experience together. And Scott Maderer, who is the founder and coach of Inspired Stewardship. Please join me in welcoming them all to the show. Hey, y'all. It's so good to see you. Can y'all hear me okay? Oh, thank you, Sandy. Thank you so much. Some people might be familiar with your face because you're like all over our website. So thank you, Sandy, for asking me the question about what is a deeper purpose behind what we do. What impact are we having outside of just the lives that we change for business owners, lightening their load and making things easier for them and that sort of thing? What else are we doing?
Well, I want to know what you're doing. What happened since we had that great conversation? And I remember you saying, I'm kind of challenged by this idea of aligning purpose first before profit. So I'd love to hear.
Yes. This truly got the wheels turning in my head. And I think I shared with you one of the things that resonates with me so well is single teen moms. And the reason why that resonates with me is because I was one. I was a single teen mom on welfare, did the whole food stamp thing and low-income housing and all of that. When I graduated from high school at 16, I had a 1-month-old son. And so my life just changed. And so since then, I have been on the hunt for the perfect organization to support that is, whether it's local here in Georgia or nationwide, to support single teen moms. So in the meantime, I've been supporting other very awesome causes, but still on the hunt.
I love that. I'm so glad you shared, and I've missed talking to you. So this is so much fun. And the guests have all been so incredible. So I'm looking forward to getting to know the guests on this segment. It's interesting because I do a lot of coaching with small business owners, some larger organizations, but a lot of small business owners. And we always talk about purpose, like our big why. And so many times people are like, well, I don't have like a big why, like to feed everyone or save people from this illness. Here's my big why. And so a couple of things. One, it can be very seasonal, right? Like when we were raising our kids, that was certainly a really big part of why we did our business and why we wanted to be successful, is to be able to provide for them. But then as our kids grew out of our home, things changed, and we thought, we need something bigger that we can't check off. And so the best purpose is one you can't ever check off in your whole life. So things like being a great mom, right? Like I'm going to work at that for my whole life, right? Or maybe it's something else that, maybe there's a problem in the world that just, really incites you, you're angry about that. And, I want to say, well, then what are you doing about it? Because, that might be the start of you finding a purpose. Is there's a reason that you care so much. And so I find that in working with business owners, many of them have that, but they've not really made it part of their business. Like they don't tell anybody. And the way this started for us, we have a real estate company, and we've also done coaching for many, many years. And our last daughter went to college, and I was very depressed, and my husband was sleeping in. And I was like, why are you sleeping in? He's like the 4:30 a.m. morning person, right? Wow. And he realized, he was like, I just sent our last daughter off to school. Now, what am I about? And his coach at the time said, well, Tom, what do you care about? And Tom said, I really care about water, because water is so important to sustain life. And so we began to research companies that were producing wells or fixing wells in other countries. And then also discovered, I live in Colorado, and just 500 miles from here, we have Native American people who do not have running water or plumbing. And so we became very involved in it. And that coach said, well, are you telling people about it? Like when you go to a listing presentation or you're working with somebody, do you tell anybody? And tell people no. And so we put this little paragraph in the presentation. And I remember he went to this presentation. He was up against, 11 or 12 other really great real estate people in the Denver area. This was a multi-million-dollar home. And he went through his presentation, and he talked a little bit about that, turned the page, and the people said, wait, go back there. Tell us more about that. So he told them about this passion he has to provide clean water for all who thirst. And he left, and they said they would let him know, who they were going to choose. And 3 days later, when they were making their choice, they called him and said, we'd like to work with you. And Tom said, I know I was up against a lot of great people. Can you tell me why you chose me? That you're all really professional and would really do a great job. But Tom, you have a passion to change the world, and we want to be part of that. And so that began us really thinking about, purpose is really good for profit.
Yes, it is.
But it has to be sincere and authentic. Like you can't just pick something and say, I care about it, right? Like people have to feel it when you talk about it, right? They have to know it's real.
That's right. Absolutely. And Tiana says, okay, totally off topic, but Sandy, your eyes are gorgeous.
Thank you. I can take no credit. That's God and my parents.
Well, and I concur. But yes, absolutely. When you have a purpose that is bigger than you, it definitely, the profits just come. They just come. And so you kind of answered the question that we had for you, Sandy, because you've helped leaders align their work with the lives that they want to live. When did you realize that purpose, not just success, needed to be at the center of everything you do? And it sounds like from that moment your husband had that presentation, it was like a game changer for you guys.
It was. I think I've always been very purpose driven. I mean, my name means helper of mankind. My name is and I think I've always been involved like in philanthropic, like I ran the first Jerry Lewis muscular dystrophy marathon in my front yard when I was 8, so I've always been just this person that wants to make a difference in the world, but I had not been a business owner. So when I became a business owner, And I began to look at this purpose piece and realize not only in this particular instance, but also there's a great book out there called Firms of Endearment. Everyone needs to read it. It's really about large corporations making purpose. That social consciousness that corporations are leaning into. But with they've not done any research or work with small business. And so I love working with the small business owner, because on those days that are so hard and you're like, is this worth it? Am I making any money? Am I making any difference? Or I lost a big customer. If you can go back to remembering why you do what you do, then it helps you get through that time. And so, yes, that example I gave you was certainly a big eye opener for us. And that's continued to grow. That was in 2005 or 6. So that continued to grow for us.
Wow. Wow. That is so fantastic. And I'm sure that there are so many people who are so grateful, including myself, that you guys are providing this not only clean water, but being such an example for what it looks like to have a purpose-driven business. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Scott, your work centers on helping people align their time, talent, and treasures with their calling. When did you or your sense of purpose become clear? And how did that change the way you live and lead?
Yeah, there's two answers to that question. One is it's still becoming clear. I think it's important to recognize that when we talk about having a purpose or big why, I love that, Sandy, that's exactly the words I use, is when you come to it, it's a process of journey and discovery. It's not like it always comes in one epiphany from on the high and you look up and you go, this is it. This is my purpose forever. Instead, it evolves, it changes, it continues to be different or deeper or nuanced in new ways. And I want to make sure I say that out loud, because I think all too often we look around and you hear Sandy's story and you're like, oh, she's found her one purpose. But I also heard in there, it's continuing to, change and evolve. And I think people need to know that, because I think we look around at other people, we're like, oh, look, they found their purpose. I must be doing something wrong. It's like, no, you're just somewhere else in the journey, and that's okay. For me, when it really started coming clear is kind of at a dark night of the soul moment. My wife and I went through a number of financial challenges. We were nearly divorced because of it. I was suicidal because of finances. We had all of this negative energy. We weren't communicating. We weren't talking. I was going to protect her by not talking to her. She's going to protect me by not talking to me. Of course, all we're doing is making the situation worse, not better. And out of that, where I've not hit rock bottom, I've gone splat. It's really the bottom of the barrel. That's when I was open enough to hear messages that made me realize that, wait a minute, there is more to this than just money. There is more to this than just productivity. There's moments in here about really looking at what's actually important to you and changing the way you live, not because of what everyone else tells you is the way you're supposed to live, but actually identifying what is it for you? And what is your unique giftings and callings and passions and purpose? And once you start living into that more authentically, the neat thing is I started doing that. My wife started doing that. We radically changed the way we were living our life. And then all of a sudden people started coming up and going, hey, y'all are weird. Do you think you could help us be weird? And it's like, yeah, we could do that. And that was literally how the coaching business was born. It wasn't intentional. It was accidental. And yet, as I began to do it, it became very clear that, all that other experience I had when I was doing this and all those moments where I had all that other stuff that seemed irrelevant in the past, that's coming together and becoming clearer. Now, again, I'm sure I haven't arrived at the end of this journey. I don't know what 5 years from now will look like. I wrote a book a couple of years ago. That wasn't initially in the plans. There's other things that are coming to fruition. So it's living that purpose moment to moment with a very open hand and an open heart, and recognizing when these things come in from outside, from other people, from, from prayer, from whatever it is, when those signals come in, being open to hear them and go, huh, maybe that's something it's not that it's aligned or not aligned. Maybe it's even just, this is more aligned. And,
Right.
because I think a lot of times we look at it as yes, no, when sometimes it's more nuanced than that.
Right. Absolutely. And I love, first of all, thank you for sharing your story with us and being so transparent and vulnerable to share how low you got to, in your life and in your situation. And I'm thanking God that he got you through that. And
It's definitely a God thing.
because it's not easy when you have so much negativity going on in your life, just to keep waking up, So I'm so thankful that you kept waking up and are now blessing us with your story. And I love how God just works everything together for the good so that now you're able to help others through similar situations and let them know, yeah, there is hope. It's hard right now. This is what I did to help me navigate this whole situation and get through and make it through minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day, on this journey. But if you've never been through that, you wouldn't be able to help coach them through that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So
that's part of the moment sometimes is, for me, I had to borrow hope from other people. And I think that's sometimes what our jobs are as coaches, is to have the hope that someone else can borrow, so that they can move forward.
Yeah, borrowed hope. I love that. That is so good. So good. And so we can see how your life experiences have now, even though in the moment they are so hard and so overwhelming and can be daunting, you didn't let it stop you from doing what you needed to do to continue moving forward, continue making change, doing the work, to get to the other side. And not only has it helped you personally, but impacted your business. Now your business is thriving and growing. So that is it all. I love that. I love that everything is working together for your good and God's glory.
Amen.
So Dan, you've been on quiet. It's so good to have you here and to see you again.
Long time no see, Renee.
All right. Okay, we're being very sarcastic, y'all. I just saw Dan on Tuesday, where he has this amazing networking event on Alignable. You'll definitely need to check him out because I made some amazing connections there, Dan, and I can't wait to follow up on them. So, anywho, I digress. I just want to shout you out because you are amazing. But Dan, you have truly built and sustained multiple mission-driven organizations. When did your work shift from something you did to something you knew you were called to do?
So I was kind of sitting here thinking about, what do I say after? How do I follow both of those, Sandy and Scott? What else do I add to the audience here? And it was funny because as I'm thinking about all the different ways that I could possibly approach this question, it got me thinking that this has a lot been my challenge as I've started nonprofits, as I've grown nonprofits. Where's my place? Mm-hmm. What do I do? What about me? I remember talking to my business coach and trying to figure out what is my organization about? And I think it was the fifth time I'd asked him this question. So we're on the fifth session. So we're thousands of dollars in already. And he stops me and he goes, Dan, I don't want you to think about what makes you different right now. I don't want you to think about what makes you unique. I want you to go help people. Take what you know, put out videos about what you know, and see who shows up. That's it. And I was like, that sounds stupid, but sure. I am paying you money after all, so let's go ahead and try it. And through that, I learned what I think is backed up by psychology, which is you do not understand your purpose until you do things. Mm-hmm. There's no way you can read a book.
Hold on. You do not understand your purpose until you do things. That's quotable. I don't care what anybody say. That's good.
Hey, have your amazing team put together a meme. I'll share it.
I love that.
But it's true, because I'm sitting here and I'm like, I've always been, I know there's some things that I'm not good at, right? Like I took the ACT and I think I scored whatever the highest was on reading comprehension. And then when I was going through the math portion, I was homeschooled. So when I was going through the math portion of the ACT and they threw Greek letters at me, I was unaware that I was also supposed to know Greek going into that. Like my math score was terrible. And I know there's some things I'm terrible at. But there are several things I'm like okay good at. And there are several things I'm like pretty good at, but sometimes. And there's some things I'm good at on Tuesdays, but not other days. And it's like, well, what do? I just went out and I tried things. I mean, if I think about over the past couple of years in business, some of the people that I've helped and what some of their challenges, some of it was, how do you pitch when you want to fund something good and you have a good cause that you want to get funded? How do you pitch people? How do you come up with what you're offering people to pitch? How do you working with somebody right now that their executive director, their leader of their organization, was not performing to top performance? Well, how do you get them there? That's a little different than fundraising, but you know what? I said, I have some experience in that. Let's try that. And as I started to do all these things, how do you launch a nonprofit? How do you do all these? As I started to do these pieces, I started to realize what the combination, I think in, I'm trying to remember the three kind of purpose charts. There's genius, which is a combination of what you do well and what you're passionate about. There's self-actualization, which is a combination of what you do well, what you're passionate about, and what gives value to the world. And then there's another one that is what you do, what you're passionate about, what gives value to the world, and what you like to do, all four. And I didn't start coming around to that until I did things. And I started to realize, wow, the biggest reason that people want to be able to message their purpose is usually to raise money for their purpose so they can go do more of their purpose. Maybe you apply it to that, and maybe you apply it to this. And so do I think that I have found my purpose at this point? I'm not sure. I'm kind of with Scott on that. But do I think I'm much more clear on the things that I can do that definitely help people, that people will pay me money for in order to help them do, that I'm passionate about and that I'm good at, started to understand those things and see the fruits of those things in my life. And so that's probably my biggest push, guys, is you can twiddle your thumbs and you can screw around and you can, write long soliloquies. I have a 3-year vision over there. I have like 14 documents of, this is my unique selling proposition or whatever nonsense. And it wasn't until I actually went out, I did the thing, I helped people, I figured out what I like to do, that I got anywhere near close to my purpose.
Yeah. Wow. That is so good. That is just so good. And I love that it wasn't like a pre-recorded or preset thing, like an expectation that somebody had put on you and said, you're going to be this, or you're going to do this, or whatever. But you have taken the time that you need to figure it out yourself and figure out, what do I do well? What brings me joy? How can I impact people? And let me do that and see if I can make some money at the same time. And you are, like you said, you may not have completely figured it out, but to me, it's like you're very well on the way.
Well, and if there were anything I could say to parents, it would be, and as a parent, so I'm kind of talking to myself. I have 3 children that are 4 and under, but my parents never put a ceiling on me, ever. Like, wow. A lot of kids, you'll ask your parents, well, can I do this thing? And they'll be like, well, I want you to think about your strengths and I want you to think about what you're actually good at. And, they want them to avoid the disappointments and failures that they had. And my parents, you want to drop out of college? Good. First people who were supportive of me dropping out of college, my parents. You drop out of college and start a nonprofit? Well, you're not getting paid anything in college. You might as well go not get paid anything doing what you love to do, right? That wasn't what they said. But I do think that yes, I did, try to figure out what is my purpose and do things. But that note to parents, I think if they had made the box smaller and said, no, this is what you're good at, and that would have stuck with me. But my parents never made the box smaller. The box was always as big as it needed to be and allowed me to play in it. And so that's my hope for parents who are listening to this, is just make the box for your kids as big as possible, and they'll eventually figure it out.
Right. Wow. What great advice. What great advice. And my mom said to me as I was growing up that you can do anything you put your mind to. Especially when she found out that I was 16 and pregnant. And when I graduated from high school, I had a 1-month-old son. She said, life is going to be harder, because it was already hard with you being, a Black woman, and where you have to work twice as hard to be considered half as good. And now you're a mom, but you can still do what you want to do with your life. It may take a little bit longer. It might, be a little bit harder, a little bit more coordinating involved, but you can still do it. So that encouragement from my mom truly resonated with me. So when you said that, Dan, about how what our parents say can either limit us and make us feel like we're in this tiny bubble, or we can feel like the world is our oyster and there's nothing that we can't do as long as we put our mind to it. So it's a mindset that needs to be nurtured and cared for in the way so that it can get you to where you are living out your calling and living out your purpose. Does that sound like it makes sense?
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. So as we get ready to go on to our next segment here, I know that we only have a few minutes left, so I'm going to do kind of a firestorm, like rapid fire, I think is what they call it, question for each of you. So we're going to start with Sandy. What helps you stay aligned with what matters most?
Well, you saw on the screen that I have this saying called love well by doing good. Mm-hmm. And I really think love needs to look like something. It's easy to say, I love you, but love should be actionable. Mm-hmm. And so I get up every day and I say, what does it look like? What does it look like at the grocery store? What does it look like with my husband? What does it look like with my new Belgian Malinois, who's my Ferrari with fur? What does it look like with my kids or my grandkids? What does it look like at work? And so it keeps me aligned. And some days I get to the end of the day and I went, oh, I can really go back and see where I did that. And other times I go, I didn't do so well at that today, or I forgot about it, or I could have done better at this. I wasn't loving it all, And one of the people I have to put in the equation is me. It's easy to just be there for everybody else. And so I've begun to really say, what does it look like for you, Sandy, today? What does it look like for you to love yourself today? Because when you're full, you love everybody else better, and you love, more profoundly, more generously. And so that's the thing that's just kind of like my aligning motto. It took a really long time to come there. So it's not like I just woke up one day and said, here's my life motto, played around like, you were saying, you guys were saying, Dan and Scott, with just who am I for a long time. And I'm still figuring it out too. But I think that if at the end of the day, when I'm gone and people say she did work hard at living that way, that will be a good thing.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. And Scott, how about you? What helps you stay aligned?
And this is going to be similar to Sandy, but I'm going to use a little different language so that in part it might resonate with somebody. I think I constantly ask myself the question, what do I want to be when I grow up? And I've got a little bit of gray hair, so you could argue whether I'm a grown up yet or not, because, that depends on the day of the week, I guess. But I do, what do I want to be today? What am I going to, and like Sandy said, I think that's a verb, not a noun, in terms of when I say what I want to be, in terms of how do I want to show up? Do I want to show up with a smile on my face and joy in my heart, or do I want to show up as the grumpy Gus, and thinking to myself that consciously and being intentional and realizing that no matter what, I've got the power of choice. Because I think all too often we find ourselves saying things like, I had to do that, or I had no choice. It's like, yeah, you did. Admit it. And by the way, this isn't a good choice, bad choice thing. I don't care if the choice is good or bad. I'm simply pointing out you have one, and so giving myself that luxury and that power of saying, I've got the power of choice today of what I'm going to be and how I'm going to show up. And like Sandy, holding some grace for yourself, because some days I do not show up in a way that I am proud of, but still letting that be that mantra tomorrow too, so that even when you didn't show up the way you wanted to, you get up the next day and you go, okay, fresh slate, another shot. Let's do it.
That's right. Today is a good day to start again. I love that. And Dan, what helps you stay aligned with what matters most?
Honestly, it's the same thing that I teach nonprofits to talk about when they are asking for money, which is your founding story. Why are you doing this? What's the reasons for this? What experiences did you have in your life that led you to want to do this? B, it is your transformational vision. Where do you want to be in 3 years? I do have a 3-year vision on the wall. And Cameron Herold's Vivid Vision is a fantastic book. It's a little book. I like little books because while I like reading, I'm also very distractible. So Cameron Herold's Vivid Vision, very small book, has you create a 3-year vision, very detailed. And then you just put it on your wall. And what I found amazing about when you got your vision clear and you've laid it out in detail is you are working toward it even when you not realize it. I have not looked at that vision in 6 months, except for today for this broadcast. I was like, I wonder where I'm at. And I've probably checked off 40% of what I had on there. And that's the power of developing that transformational vision. So your founding story, where you come from, your transformational vision, your the pressing problem that you solve. What is it that I'm trying to address out there in the world right now? What do I want to see the change be? And then what is your unique mission? What is the specific way that I'm going about doing this? In my case, I really want to see a world where nonprofits who actually do solve problems are respected on the same level that businesses and governments that solve problems are, because they're closer to the community, they know the solutions better, and they bring people together instead of tear people apart. That is what I want to see as my transformational vision. And my unique way of going about that is I'm helping small nonprofits who don't have a fundraising team build a consistent fundraising source so that they don't have to be afraid. They don't have to say, oh no, I can't do fundraising. They can raise the money they need for their good causes. That's my approach to this. And my approach might change, but if I know founding story, pressing problem, transformational vision, unique mission, if I know that about myself, that can keep me grounded and tell me if I need to change anything, what I need to change.
Wow, that is so good. So good. And way to stay laser focused in on those 4 things to help you stay aligned and to help your clients, who are doing other great things for so many different people, to let them know that they can do it. They're not alone. And if they can't do it, there's you. They can hire you. But they're not alone. That's the point. They are not alone. They can start to build their team with you or someone from your organization to help them navigate that space so that they can continue making positive change in this world. It's so important. And we've had some really great comments today. I can't see the names, but all of these have been such great golden nuggets of memorable gems. And what do I want to be? When all the
are you tired yet, Renee? It's like almost 2 hours into your show at this point.
Well, you know what? I'm so energized by you guys. I truly am, because you're so inspirational to me, and having you be a part of my life has truly been a game changer. Y'all just don't know. You don't know the impact that each of you has had on my life personally. So
Renee, likewise, and you could have just quietly opened a bottle of champagne and celebrated. And yet you chose to be generous. And I just heard a quote by one of my favorite pastors, Bill Johnson, said, "The people that are the most generous are entrusted with the most." And I just think that's who you are. And I really appreciate you in my life too. So thanks for doing this. It's been fun to get to know some other people who I'd love to have on my podcast, which I finally relaunched yesterday morning.
What's the name of it? So everybody can go like and subscribe.
It's Love Well by Doing Good. And I interview people and business owners who are, purposeful in their life doing things. And that really just is what I wanted to do it for, is to be able to help people like you were saying, Dan and Scott, be more of who they're becoming. And so love to interview you guys, and any of the guests on this show would be just great. So
yes,
get in touch with me.
Absolutely. And we're definitely going to make sure that everyone who's been a part of the show today has each other's information, so that you all can either be referral partners, guests, hosts, whatever it looks like. So I'm happy to facilitate that and make sure that everyone knows. And our show notes will include all of your contact details, where people can reach you on your websites, and just different things like that, because you guys are making a difference. You guys have shared with us your gift of purpose, which is you just being you. So thank you so much for all that you are doing. And we are going to wrap up. I know we might be running just a little bit behind schedule, but this has been truly amazing, you guys. As we come to the close of this very special anniversary celebration, I just want to pause for a moment, because what we've experienced today isn't just a show. It's been a reminder of the gift of inspiration, the kind life that lifts us when life feels heavy and helps us remember what's possible. A reminder of the gift of growth, that becoming who we're meant to be often requires stretching, unleashing, unlearning, and trusting the process. Also, a reminder of the gift of purpose, that when our work, our values, and our calling align, life feels different, clearer, and more grounded. To every guest who shared their voice, their story, their wisdom today, thank you. You didn't just speak to us, you poured into us. And to everyone watching, whether you joined us live or you're catching this later, I want you to know this: you are not here by accident. Something you heard today was meant for this season of your life. Something was meant to confirm you, challenge you, or encourage you forward. As I look ahead to the next chapter of Renee Speaks, I'm more committed than ever to creating space for conversations that matter. Conversations rooted in honesty, clarity, growth, and purpose. Year 3 isn't all about doing more. It's about doing what matters most with intention. So if you've been a part of this journey from the beginning, thank you. If you're new here, welcome. And if you've been quietly watching from the sidelines, I see you, and I'm glad you're here. Before we go, I just want to say this: take the inspiration with you. Honor the growth you're in, and stay aligned with what truly matters. From my heart to yours, thank you for celebrating 3 years of Renee Speaks with us today. Until next time, peace and blessings.